Hello, I'm Natasha Srdoc, co-founder of International Leaders Summit and co-host of America's Roundtable. Today, we shall analyze an important case of dominant position abuse in Croatia, enabled by US and EU taxpayer funds. The European Parliament made petition number 0171/2024 admissible and available for people to sign. Dominant position abuse, GP Krk Construction Company receives every EU-funded contract in the City of Rijeka and beyond. Article 102 of the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union prohibits abusive conduct by companies that have a dominant position on a particular market. Unfortunately, EU taxpayers directly and US taxpayers through the World Bank are funding, facilitating, and enabling the dominant position abuse by a construction company, GP Krk, in Croatia's City of Rijeka and beyond. On another important note, in June 2023, Croatia became the only EU country on FATF's money laundering and terrorism financing grey list. As long as Croatia's infrastructure is funded by EU and US taxpayers, and the real estate development is funded by laundered monies, there will be no need for a market economy in the respective construction segments in Croatia. Both types of investments, EU funding and money laundering, are preferable for Croatia's corrupt government structures at the local and national levels, since they do not require profits while securing votes, bribes, and party financing. And let us delve into the dominant position abuse by a construction company, GP Krk. Every construction project funded by the EU and US taxpayer funds in the City of Rijeka and beyond in Croatia is subcontracted to the same company, GP Krk. The beneficiaries of the EU taxpayer funds may change. The City of Rijeka, Port of Rijeka Authority, Croatian Roads, Water and Sewage Company, Croatian Waters, County LNG project, but every EU-funded construction project contract in the City of Rijeka and beyond is given to GP Krk. On May 5, 2020, Croatian Roads announced that consortium headed by GP Krk was selected to build the most expensive road in Croatia. EU taxpayers paid 59 million euros, and Croatia's taxpayers paid additional 27 million euros for 3 kilometers of the road in the City of Rijeka built by GP Krk. EU taxpayers granted over 167 million euros to the City of Rijeka Water and Sewage Company and Croatian Roads through EU Cohesion Fund for reconstruction of the road, upgrading the wastewater system and improving the existing drainage system, which is built by GP Krk. Croatia's taxpayers paid additional 127 million euros. EU taxpayers are providing the funding amounting to 133 million euros to Port of Rijeka Authority through Connecting Europe facility. GP Krk receives every construction project. And additional over 350 million euros were provided for Rijeka Gateway project, funded by the EU, US, and the World Bank member countries' taxpayers during the years from 2003 to 2018. Projects had been behind schedule and costs increased. GP Krk performed construction. With the City of Rijeka having been proclaimed the EU Capital of Culture 2020, construction company GP Krk had been involved in the building project of Rijeka's library and children's home, also known as revitalization of the complex Benčić, Cigleni, and T structure, funded by EU taxpayers in the amount of over 9 million euros. Croatia's taxpayers contributed additional 12.5 million euros. EU taxpayers granted 101.4 million euros through European Commission grant for the LNG project in Croatia. Croatia's taxpayers will spend additional 100 million euros. Phase 1 related land infrastructure facilities were built by the construction company GP Krk and Pomgrad, which was owned by Austria's Strabag, then owned some 30% by Oleg Deripaska, a Russian tycoon on the sanctioned list of the United States of America. EU funding amounting to 2 million euros was provided for construction of the Home for Children and Youth, which is constructed by GP Krk. GP Krk was building the hospital in Rijeka, project worth 117 million euros, funded by Croatia's taxpayers. GP Krk has been involved in dominant position abuse, constructing without a third-party inspection, creating urban planning maps, rubber-stamped by the City of Rijeka, and thus abusing private property rights of other landowners, receiving illegal subsidies, receiving contracts in a non-transparent public tenders, and in the process abusing EU and US taxpayer funds. GP Krk performs all construction for real estate investments funded by monies of suspect origin, which had to be firstly approved by the city mayors and the heads of the urban planning department in the city of Rijeka. The Financial Action Task Force, FATF, took action on June 22, 2023 by placing Croatia on the money laundering and terrorism financing grey list of countries under increased monitoring by the international watchdog. The unintended consequences of the EU and US free and cheap money in Croatia, the Balkans and Eastern Europe is continued dominant position abuse, further erosion of the rule of law, erosion of protection of property rights, and exacerbated kleptocracy. EU and US taxpayer funds on one side and money laundering on the other side are sustaining the same corrupt structures in power for decades. From the perspective of recipient nations and their politicians, they are incentivized to reject profit-seeking private investments. Their needs are covered through dependency on free money, such as EU taxpayer grants, cheap money, such as EU and US taxpayer loans via the EBRD, the World Bank and others, and money laundering of illicit gains. As long as EU and US taxpayers do not require accountability and money laundering is not sanctioned, Croatia's officials will continue to reject profit-seeking private investments which do not pay bribes. And we cannot expect Croatia to be part of the EU's market economy based on the rule of law. European Commission just released its 2024 EU Justice Scoreboard, which shows Croatia at the bottom of the EU when it comes to perceived judicial independence and effectiveness of investment protection. The most of respondents consider interference or pressure from government and politicians as the main reason for the lack of judicial independence in Croatia. US and EU should sanction international money laundering in Croatia and should freeze taxpayers' money to Croatia until an independent judiciary is firmly in place from within and without, with foreign judges and prosecutors. I invite you to share this video. Thank you so much.